Welcome back to the Virtus Podcast, and a very welcome to our very special guest, Brit Cox. Welcome.
Thanks.
And Tess.
And Tess.
I'm just another little...
Here, third wheeling. Again.
Yeah. It's great.
First, I'm going to get you to explain you and what you do in a minute, but I think this is a Virtus first. I think this is the first world champ on the podcast. Actual.
World champ.
We've had some pretty cool...
This is a first for me. First time on the Virtus podcast.
I know. I think...
actually, two firsts in one day. First time on the Virtus podcast. First time training in the Virtus gym.
True, yep. Three-course menu today. Lift, lunch, podcast.
Yep.
Sounds like the perfect Saturday to me.
It is a good Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Saturday. God. Feels like Sunday.
It hasn't gotten there yet. It's okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a first. Like, we've had some pretty cool guests. Some pretty, immaculate people. And I reckon you might have just gone, right up to the top. First world champ.
Queen Bee.
Don't speak too soon.
Nah. You're pretty cool. You're pretty cool. No, you called us cool, so we got to reciprocate the favour.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that was a highlight
I'm already
of my day.
stoked that you've done your research. I had no idea that, I didn't think that you would know that I'm a world champion.
Most over-prepared, underprepared person.
Nice.
Got no notes, but it's all up in the dome.
There's some wheels clicking over.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't write it down, no one knows if you miss anything. So.
Exactly. There you go.
But, Brit, welcome. Welcome to
Thank
Virtus. Welcome to the Peninsula. Not originally from anywhere close to here. Very long way away, which Tess and I are going towards near later in the week. We're going to talk about that later too. But, Brit, welcome. So, for those who don't know Brit is a former mogul athlete. Retired, but still killing it. Mogul athlete, so down the slopes and up over the hills and things. The old knee scaries, that's what I call them. And, yeah, we're going to talk about Brit today and what Brit does now, what Brit has done, and all the cool shit she did. Mm-hmm. And Brit's awfully nervous because she has no idea what we're going to talk about.
I'm not nervous. I'm excited. You just haven't let me in on anything.
No.
I said, what are we going to chat about?
I said all things you.
Yeah, all right.
But, Brit, you are the most experienced media-trained podcasty person currently on the couches. So I'm expecting you to end up taking over and then interviewing Tess and I.
I don't know about that. I've listened to plenty of the Virtus podcast episodes, so I think you've got it down pat.
What's your favourite one so far?
Well, maybe a little bit biased, but my favourite would have to be the episode with Alison Miles.
She's a good egg.
It's
I
okay.
miss her.
But this
It's
is
fine.
This is only because I haven't yet listened to the ones
Correct.
with Tess.
Yeah.
So I
awkward,
have a drive
that's
home after this, so I've got the
Whatever
folder.
you do,
Oh, there you go.
do not listen to the Monday edition podcast that Tess
No,
was
I find
is
that hilarious.
chaos.
It's chaos, but it's just like the funniest thing.
Yeah, maybe a
Okay,
week.
I'm adding this to the list.
Add it to the list.
So we do a weekly podcast on a Monday usually. And it was a public holiday week, so we didn't actually do the podcast in the morning. So Lockie and I and whoever else is around, and feel free to jump on. We just kind of talk about our week and we talk a bit of shit for 25 minutes, give or take.
Love that. So it's
Public
just like
holiday, though, we
friends
didn't do it.
friends catch up.
Pretty
but
much, yeah. We
all
have
of
like a
sudden
little
you've
structure
got
we
them-
follow, but it's pretty free flowing.
Yep.
But it was a public holiday and we didn't do it. And Lockie wasn't around because he was away. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do it by myself. So I let our marketing and media manager, Georgia, I was like, Georgia, you're in charge today. We'll do it later. We're going to hang out here, watch the footy. Do it later. You can do it with whoever's around. And then, therefore, Tess and Liv Malicheski, who you don't know, they are three of the most identical people you can met. And when you stick them in a room, it is chaos. Like sit back and just watch the world burn kind of thing.
Okay. Great.
I was having to bring it back on track.
Yeah,
that was like the level of what was going on. I was having to be like, oh, what's next on the list? Because we were just
there was a list.
There was a list of things that we had to talk about, but we were getting through so many rabbit holes and chaos, and
they're the best kind of conversations.
that's what
And they're
I
natural.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, so give it a listen.
Okay, I definitely will. I'll get it lined up. But the other thing is, I'm like, well, why would I listen to a podcast with Tess when I can just catch up with you and have a chat anyway?
Yeah, true. True.
The worst part about that podcast is I was standing up there the whole time going, oh, this is so bad.
Oh, no.
Because I was kept looking at Tess, and Tess was like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep it. And these two here were just off with the fairies talking about all things. It was... But that's quite fun to listen to.
Okay, you've sold
Yeah.
me. I'll
But this
listen
is
to it.
number 3 podcast you've been on?
It'll be 4.
4? No, I wasn't including the weekly, sorry.
4. So
Yeah.
this is basically the Tess Rowley show.
Yeah, Tess is co-hosting now. You've done more than Jazz has.
Really? Maybe Jazz and I should do one.
Yes, Jazz is updated and due for one. Now that she's finished uni, she,
Yeah.
as part of her character building for 2023, taking a few podcast episodes is in it. So that's coming for her. And she got
Right.
mentioned again of it last week going, hey,
saw-
that's still on your list.
I saw her doing a bass performance. Is
Yes,
that right?
yeah.
She did like a little reel on
Yeah.
there, and she was so good.
I know,
I
and I
messaged
sent
her,
it
and
to
I was
her.
like, "What are you talking about? You're amazing."
100%. I sent it to her. I was like, we need more Jazz content. Like,
Yeah.
you can do it. You just got to, like, get coaxed into doing it. But you did yours, Steph's.
No, not
Or you were in the
Steph's.
room for Steph's.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, no, Steph was in the room for yours.
Yeah.
Harry's, which comes out on Sunday.
That's exciting.
Or tomorrow. And for everyone listening, whoever knows when this one comes out, but the 2nd of July.
Yeah.
Who's the third?
Well, there's mine, Harold's, and then Rundown, the weekly.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah. So this will be 4th.
Yeah, this will be number 4.
So, like I said, Tess Rowley show.
Exactly.
No, none of that.
Brit, who are you and what do you do?
Who am I?
So I really like this question because it's so open-ended.
I mean, we could be really philosophical.
You can answer it however you want to answer it.
I mean, I am a yogi, so it's like,
Exactly
who am
my point.
Well, we're all one.
Who is everyone?
Yeah, we're all one.
We are all just atoms.
But if we're talking historically and sport related, I am Brit Cox. I'm a 4-time Olympian, former world champion, so 2017 world champion in the sport of freestyle mogul skiing. So as an Aussie as a winter sport Aussie, a lot of people, when I say I'm was a winter sport athlete, they're like, do you guys even have snow in Australia? But the reality is we have 5 ski resorts in Australia where we get to ski for about 3 months of the year. So I was lucky enough to grow up at one of those ski resorts. So it's pretty much on skis as soon as I could walk, and then naturally, followed my older brother around the mountain. That's how I got into freestyle skiing, and mogul skiing was the one that jumped out to me the most. Loved it. Loved competing. Loved the excitement and all the different elements that were involved in mogul skiing. And yeah, once I started competing, I guess I got the bug, and it sort of took off from there. But I did actually retire from competitive mogul skiing. So I say I retired from competitive mogul skiing, not skiing in general, because I'd love to ski for as long as my body will allow me to. But yes, retired from competitive mogul skiing in July last year, so about a year ago now, and starting to move into a bit of work in live sport broadcast, and still studying at university, a bunch of random different things, and just transitioning into that next chapter.
Do you find that hard right now?
We
were going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's fresh right now.
Oh, it is very fresh. Yeah, it's such a strange thing to be saying you're 28 and you're retiring, but it's scary and it's exciting. I think I'm trying to take a lot of the things that I've learnt as an athlete and apply them to this next chapter. And I am trying to look at it as, yes, it's a next chapter. It's not the end. It's just things are different. I'm still the same person. I'm just applying those skills in different contexts and challenging myself in different ways. But yeah, still very much involved in the winter sport, high performance winter sport community in Australia as well. I'm a board member of the Olympic Winter Institute of Australia. Still very close with a bunch of my teammates and some of the young up and coming skiers coming through, and trying to be a bit of an informal mentor in that space as well. So still very much connected, and then through wanting to work in live sport broadcast and communications, also staying connected to sport. So wearing a few different hats at the moment, but yeah, still very much in that sporting industry.
Self-proclaimed mother hen, rumor has it.
Yeah, huge mother hen.
Well, I guess when my first Olympic Games, 2010, I was the baby of the team. So we kind of came full circle by Beijing 2022. I had a bit of experience under my belt, and I just...
It's just a little bit, no worries.
I just casually rocked up to Beijing.
Yeah, my 4th Olympics, no worries. Yeah, just wash that one off.
No, just the mogul skiing team is a very tight-knit bunch of people, and we all, it's an individual sport, but we travel together, we train together, we live together, and we spent so much, especially throughout COVID, so much time living in each other's pockets, so we became really close. And I guess by the time I got to Beijing, there were a few younger teammates who were competing in their first games, and I just felt like I wanted to pay it forward and I guess teach them some of the things that I'd learnt as an athlete, and hopefully make their experience a little bit better. And yeah, I think I had some really great mentors throughout my career, so I kind of wanted to pay that forward.
Mother hen.
Yeah. We were actually talking about the importance of mentorship
Yes.
this morning. And I can see it from the rowers in that we lack that space at the VIS of having that older rower to kind of model yourself off and replicate those elite behaviours. And so the importance of having Brit in that space, like still at the VIS, mentoring the young kids coming through, it's so important.
Well, I was really excited when one of the performance managers at the VIS asked if I'd be interested in being a mentor. I was like, absolutely, I'd love to, because I think that's, if I think back to why I wanted to be a mogul skier and take that as an elite career from the very beginning, I really wanted to have a positive impact on the people around me, and especially young people. I wanted them to be okay to, you know, step outside their comfort zone and not necessarily go with the status quo. And I wanted to inspire other people to do that and to push themselves and to go, you know, you don't have to be like everybody else. And, you know, a little kid from a small country town in Australia can become a winter sport world champion. And I wanted to inspire people to do that. And that's something that I really came back around to for my last Olympic cycle into Beijing. Was this is why I started this whole journey in the first place, and kind of came back to that and being like, yeah, I'm still working towards being the best athlete I could possibly be and the most competitive mogul skier and getting absolutely every little bit out of it that I could. But at the same time, I want to have an impact on other people by leading by example and being a mentor, and just, a good teammate, really. So now that I've retired from competitive mogul skiing, this is another way that I can kind of stay connected to that value and give back to the sport. And if there's one kid that can appreciate, or one athlete that can appreciate what I have to offer, and it makes their career or their journey that little bit better, then that makes me happy.
Exciting. Love it. I could listen to you talk for hours.
Yeah.
I'm infatuated, like I am. And like it's something that I've never been around and involved in from like a sport point of view, which also I find super cool. So
well, sport's so cool. It's like, I think, you know, people talk about you grow from adversity. In a sport, you're pretty much putting yourself in that every single day deliberately to grow and to become better in so many different ways, whether it be physical or mental, emotional, all those kinds of things. So I think, there's so many special things that can come out of sport. And for me, my journey with that mogul skiing team, we got to go through those obstacles and hurdles together. So, you know, one day you might have a tough day out on the mountain and your team are there to see that and support you, and the next day it's them and you can support them, and so on and so forth. So you develop this appreciation of each other's journeys as well. So even though it is an individual sport, you get to the Olympic Games, the pinnacle of your sport, and you're happy to see them succeed, even if they're your competitor. Like, take, for example, my teammate Jakara Anthony winning the gold medal in Beijing. I wanted to win a gold medal more than I wanted to breathe from the age of 8 years old. And I watched my teammate achieve that goal right in front of my eyes. But I was so excited because I'd seen Jack go through her career and all the obstacles and challenges that she'd had along the way, but also how hard she worked. And so many people like came to me like, what was that like to watch? And I was like, it was freaking awesome. It was so cool to see that, and to see our entire team be so excited for that, and also to know like there's so many other little kids back in Australia who are going to be watching that and be inspired as well. I'm like, well, that's like, you know, if it couldn't be me, then like that's the next best thing is to watch my teammate and great friend achieve that as well.
Yeah. There's nothing better than watching your friends do cool shit.
Exactly.
Makes me so happy.
It's so cool.
Yeah. How did you two meet?
How did we meet, Tess? Just through the VIS?
I think it was VIS. I think I was like walking across the gym floor one day and we were just like, hi.
Oh, really?
I think Rodney was like, Brit Cox is on the floor. I was like, oh, who's that? He's like, one of the coolest moguls person ever. I was like, okay, cool, I'm going out there. And I think I went out and I was like, hi, I'm Tess. And you're like, I'm Brit.
That's big for you.
Yeah, I think I remember that now.
Yeah.
That's
Rodney loves you, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, he thinks very highly of you.
Maybe that's just because we talk about skiing whenever he's in.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But yeah.
There's quite a few good eggs hanging around the VIS.
Yeah, we tend to pick them well.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, became friends there. Then we just hung out. I see Brit on the gym floor every now and then.
Yep.
Check in, see how you're going.
It's good. Yeah. It's good to have those people checking in on you.
Yeah. I think it's good that we find that balance at the VIS where it's like, yes, it is an elite environment and everyone's striving to be the best possible, but then we're also humans and we just like to connect and communicate. And
well, I think so many people in there have similar values and share those values, so it's easy to connect with those people, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And sport, it does become a bit of a bubble where you only see those people so much of the time.
It's exhausting. But so cool, but so exhausting.
Yeah.
Britt, for those who have no idea what moguls is, how would you describe it?
It's actually really hard to describe.
Yeah.
So, one of the best things about mogul skiing is that it involves so many different elements. So, mogul skiing as a winter sport is a judged sport. So, the course is about 250 metres long. The pitch is probably around about 28 degrees. And the course is broken up into...
Pitch.
Lingo.
I was like, football field.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Let me just divert back to
Tess's brain
snow.
just like start doing these ones.
I'm like 250 metre pitch.
You need to call me out if there's anything you don't understand.
I'm just going to watch Tess just try and like do this in her head.
Watch the monkey just put the symbols down and be like, listen.
And I'll just,
You seen like meme where like someone's off, is it Simpsons?
Yeah, it's The
And
Simpsons.
it's like the monkey's clapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. And then it's like, wait, no, pay attention,
Yeah.
listen.
Lock
I
in.
mean, don't speak too soon. You guys are going snowboarding soon.
Oh,
so,
God. I'm terrified,
I feel
but
like
also
Tess
so
will be
excited.
Natural.
Oh,
You
so
reckon?
do I. I reckon she's going to be so good. I reckon I'm going to spend more time on my ass. But anyway.
I'm
I'm looking forward
100%.
to the videos.
I'm going to get one of those turtles. Liv said that there's turtles that you can wear.
Please don't do that.
Why not? I
This is
reckon
what I mean. This is what the podcast is. Live and Tess. This is a good like segue.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'd love a photo. if
Just
you
a
do that.
photo.
Yeah.
I'll make
Okay.
it happen.
But, yeah, I don't think I can be seen hanging around the mountain with you if you're going to wear that. But if you don't wear that, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
I was going to say, I'm not going to go within 10 metres of that thing. So we're good. I'm good.
Well, it would just be like running up to a kid with one on and being like, "Oh, give me that for 2 seconds." Chuck it on. Get the
Photo,
photo.
please.
There you go, sir.
Moguls, pitch, slope,
Moguls.
250 metres.
Yep,
back.
go.
250 metres. The course is divided into 3 sections. So you have the top section of moguls, which are, I was going to say small mounds of snow, but they're not always small.
Yeah.
So bumps of snow.
We're not doing this, by the way.
Why not?
Because I like my kneecaps inside my body.
So you,
I would
got
end up
these
just
bumps.
rolling.
That would hurt more, to be honest. These bumps of snow that are spaced between 3.5 and 4 metres, and there are 3 lines of moguls on the course. So you're skiing over the moguls from left to right. So you've got the first top section of moguls. So roughly 8 to 10 moguls into the top air. So that's a jump, the first jump. There are 2 jumps on the course. So the course is divided into 3 sections of moguls with 2 jumps in between. So you've got top section of moguls, roughly 8, top air, jump, landing area, 16 metres of chopped up snow, and then you're straight back into the moguls again. There's probably about 30 moguls in the middle, into the bottom air, bottom jump, landing pad, landing area, it's another 16 metres, and then the bottom section of moguls. Usually the bottom section's a bit smaller, as 6 moguls or something. When you're skiing a competition run for mogul skiing, you need to perform different tricks or skills on each jump. So you can't do the same jump on the top air, the same skill on the top air that you do on the bottom air. 2 different skills. And when you're skiing down the course, there's generally 3 lines of moguls, and you pick one line. You need to ski in that line. If you deviate from that line, it's a deduction in your turn scores. What else can I tell you? The judging system is based on 60% your turns technique, 20% your speed, and 20% jumps. So the jumping is judged kind of like diving in gymnastics, where you have a degree of difficulty chart. So the harder the trick is you do, the more you can be awarded, but given you do the trick well. So sometimes it works in your favour to do an easier trick and do it well rather than doing a more difficult trick and stuffing it up, basically.
Is speed a time thing or a look thing?
Both. But when I'm talking about that 20%, it's a time thing. So it's then there's a formula based on the pace set time, which is however many. I think it's for the women. It's roughly 9.3 meters per second, and then I think for the men it's 10.8 meters per second or something, and then that gives you your pace set time depending on the length of the course, and then your points are calculated based on how your time compares to that pace set time. Then, turns, you're looking for legs and feet pinned together. Any leg split, so seeing daylight between the knees is going to be a deduction.
I know a fun fact. That's why you wear the patches on your knees, right?
Actually, kind of, but no. So the patches actually...
Pop.
kind of.
It's like, I know moguls.
So the knee patches actually highlight your angulation. So the judges are looking for carving and angulation of the lower unit. And if you're wearing knee patches, it kind of highlights that. So it's a little bit of a hack, really.
Okay.
But it can, if you do have your legs, your skis pinned together,
Yeah.
it can show, like, you've really got them together. But then it can also highlight if you have a leg split.
Yeah, okay.
So kind of you got to play on your strengths and weaknesses there in terms of, like, knee patch placement and the colour and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you also want to have a stable upper body. So even though there's lots happening with the lower unit, range is another thing that the judges are looking for, the absorption. So they want to see really dynamic absorption with your skiing. You've also got to have a stable upper body, which requires a lot of core strength, stability, that kind of thing. So with all the things that are going on, landings, jumping, you need to have a lot of strength, obviously strength and power, agility. There's that sort of explosive speed element. It's roughly 30 seconds. It takes you roughly 30 seconds to complete a mogul run, so there's kind of that anaerobic system being used. But then at the same time, you're doing roughly eight or more training runs in a day, sometimes at altitude. So you do need to have a good aerobic base as well to be able to handle the demands of the sport and to be able to train effectively. Sometimes you're hiking jumps and that kind of thing. So I love that there's so many different elements. And then at the same time, wrap that all up into a competition performance environment, and there's so much mind over matter that goes into it and mental skills and mental prep. So I love the variety, but probably that performance on demand element is the thing that I love the most.
Yeah. Sick.
So that's mogul skiing.
I love it. What is one or two things you wish more people knew about moguls? Because one thing to see you go down a hill and do a few flips and things, but like as an athlete, and a very good athlete at that, like what's the one thing or two things or however many you want to come up with that you wish more people knew about moguls?
Probably two things come to mind immediately. One is that the physical capacities that are required for the sport, or required to be able to do the sport well. I think that's something that a lot of people don't see, because you just see once every 4 years you see mogul skiing on the Olympics on television, and you just say, okay, cool, they do this really this bunch of cool stuff. They're skiing fast, they're jumping, they're doing tricks in the air. But to be able to do that requires a lot of physical preparation. And as I was talking about, the speed, strength, agility.
Pretty well-rounded athlete.
All of those kinds of things. But then, the mental skills training to be able to do scary jumps and go upside down.
Flips and shit.
Perform under pressure as well. Like, it's not just performing a skill. It's like you're performing it under pressure, under lights. Like, you're having to tick off boxes in each of those three sections.
That too. Exactly. Yeah. And it's like the transition from jumps into moguls. And so I think, I'd love people to know more about the various elements that go into mogul skiing. That there, and also the fact that, people do generally in Australia, only see mogul skiing once every 4 years on the Olympic Games, but we compete on the World Cup circuit every year from basically December through till March. You're on the road pretty much every week at a different location, competing on the World Cup tour and then World Championships every 2 years. So there's a lot that's going on, and it's such a cool sport to watch.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool to watch.
It's something that you can also just watch in one go from the bottom, as opposed to some of the longer alpine skiing or ski cross, border cross, that kind of thing, where if you're at the bottom as a spectator, you just see the finish, whereas mogul skiing, you get to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is there a run that is your absolute favourite that you've done?
Yeah.
What was it?
So, do you mean competition run that I've done?
Yeah.
Or a course in the world?
Competition run that you've done, and then favourite course.
Okay, so I think my favourite competition run was in 2017. And this was a good year.
It's a good year.
It's before COVID happened.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a good year for you. Is what I was getting at.
So
He's done his research.
I told you. I do enough.
Now I'm like, what's coming next? But it was a good year. But this particular event was the test event for the Olympic Games. So it was on the course where the Olympic Games would be 12 months later. So it was a World Cup, but they call it a test event. And at that particular event was a nighttime competition, and I'd been having a great season, was just wanting to continue keeping that ball rolling. And I remember that night in particular, I had a okay qualifications round earlier in the day, made a few mistakes, but felt like there was a few things that I could fix up. I qualified in the first place. So with mogul skiing, you have a qualifications round. So you complete a run, top 16 from that run, go through to the finals. You get another training session before finals, and then everyone's scores are wiped clean. Those 16 ski again. The highest place qualifier will be the last person to drop. So it goes in reverse order from qualifying results. So I was the last person to drop in finals, and it's sort of the same thing again, top 6 from that final round, then go through into the super final. And again, highest place qualifier from that round is the last skier. So going through the rounds, and this season I really started to apply a lot of the mental skills and performance skills that I'd kind of adopted from yoga, a bit of a yogi, and I'd been practicing a lot at studio back in Melbourne, and starting to use a lot of like breath work and breathing techniques, meditation, to just bring me into the present moment. And I remember that night so well because I was trying to use all of my senses to get myself in the present moment up there. It was a night event, so dark, the course was under lights. I remember being up in the start area and just looking up at the stars in Korea. I was freezing cold, like -20. Standing up there, just like looking at the stars. Okay, this is bringing me into the present moment, breathing and seeing like my breath in the air because it was so cold, stomping my feet on the ground. And I just remember feeling like I just knew exactly what I needed to do in that run. I was so sure of every single turn, every body position that I needed. I felt confident. I was ready to go, and just loving mogul skiing, loving the excitement of it. I remember being up in the start gate. I was the last person to drop, so there's someone in the gate in front of me, and I'm getting ready, got clicked into my skis and going through my pre-comp routine. And there's generally a cameraman in the start gate that's filming whoever's about to drop, and the cameraman was there filming the person in front of me who was in the gate, and I'm just getting ready, and then that person drops. And I like to get in the gate pretty quickly so they can have a look at the line and look at the snow texture, get ready to go. And this cameraman was kind of in the way. And I just remember I just got in the gate, and I was just thinking about my skiing and my run. I got in there and was standing in the gate ready to go. I pushed out, and it was like everything just happened in slow motion. It was like a little bit like an out-of-body experience. And it's now, I didn't know it at the time, but that's what people describe as flow state. And I still remember that run so well. It was like I wasn't even doing anything, but everything was just working and happening, and I could feel the snow going under my skis like a conveyor belt. And then all of a sudden across the finish line, and I'm like, I feel like that was the best run I've ever done. And it was just such a good feeling. And I knew when I got to the bottom, like regardless of what score came up, I'd done everything I could, and that was the best run I could have done in that moment, the best possible run I could have done. So I didn't really care what score came up, because I was like, I've done everything I can. But
do you remember the score?
80-something. I know I won that event.
Yeah, you did. In a flow state, of course you're going to win that.
Yeah, and then I spoke to some of my coach afterwards, and he was like, what just happened up in the start gate? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you literally just shoulder charged the cameraman out of the way and stomped over the cables to get in the start gate. And I had no recollection of that whatsoever, because now I realise I was so just in that flow state in the moment. So that was a pretty cool feeling. That'd be my favourite run.
I love that. Yeah. That's such a good story. You're a great storyteller, by the way.
Thank you.
My favourite part about that whole little interaction was just Tess looking at you like a little child. Like,
I was like, tell me more.
I find myself kept looking at her, just kind of looking up at you going, this is awesome, I love this.
Yeah. Well, my role is to put the athlete at the starting gate. But then it's like, what happens in the race, I can prepare them as best as possible.
And then it's on them.
It's on them. So, like, your ability to just lock in and find those little techniques of, okay, I'm going to focus on my breath. I'm going to notice things around me. I'm going to pick up on all these little senses that are going to set me up for success. I know I've done all the training. I know I've ticked all the boxes. Like, I'm here right now. I just think that's so powerful as an athlete.
Absolutely. Because, like, I think in that moment, you've got everything that's happened before, all the training you've done in the gym, visualization, the on-snow training, for me, water ramping, acrobatics, all that kind of stuff. And then you've got this outcome that you want to achieve. And both of those are really important. But at that point in time, like, you've got is you and what's up here, really. So you've got to just accept it and go with it and bring yourself into the present moment and do everything you possibly can to have that best run that you can do to get that outcome. There's no point in that moment in time thinking about that or that.
That's so cool.
And so, yoga has been a really fantastic thing for me to be able to, I guess, learn some tools and some tricks to be able to bring myself into the present moment.
I think it's not valued enough in the sporting industry, that ability for an athlete to just lock in.
Yeah,
you can
easier said than done.
Sure. And you can I can kind of pick up on those athletes that are aware of it and will invest time in that space because they know that it will give them that extra edge to just be able to shut off all the external cues that might take them out of the zone and just sit there and do their job.
Yeah, and it's like it's accountability too, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not in this point in time, it's not my S&C coach's job to perform. It's not my technical skill-based coach. Like, I am here. This isn't just me doing it, and I need to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
Do the best I possibly can in that moment.
Yeah.
But I think as well, it's one of those things that people talk about flow state, and it's tricky because the more you try to achieve flow state,
you keep
the less
hunting
likely it is to happen. Yeah. And I've been caught in that trap before too. It's like, oh, that felt so good. I want to feel that flow state again, and I'm trying to get there, but you're trying too hard. You're thinking about flow state rather than the actual feeling of or the skill that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Which that's taking you out of the present moment.
Did you pick up on that post that run? You're kind of hunting for it too much to find flow state in next runs?
Yeah, I think I've reflected on it even in different competition seasons of like, oh, that I tried to do what I did last year and it didn't work, and realizing it wasn't because I was trying to do what I did the year before. It was literally because I was trying to achieve flow state, whereas the year before or the season before or the competition before, I wasn't trying to achieve flow state. I was trying to do the best mogul skiing run that I could do.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
Catch 22, I guess.
Yeah, but awesome that you recognised it and just took a step back and just be like, no, I'm just going to ski.
Yeah, sometimes you do just need to remember that I'm just going to ski and, have fun skiing.
Yeah, love it.
Favourite location to ski?
Favourite competition venue is Deer Valley, Utah. And if anyone is ever in Utah in January, February, go to the Deer Valley World Cup. They have moguls and aerials, freestyle skiing, and
I'd have to add that to my list.
You should absolutely. I thought of it earlier when you said you're doing it.
Right, yeah.
That works out nicely.
I actually think that slides in.
It's like, so they call it the Super Bowl of freestyle skiing, and
add it to the list.
It's like it was my first ever World Cup was in Deer Valley, and it's under lights. So the lights basically down the fence on the side of the course. So it'll be a nighttime event. So everything else is dark. Just the course is lit up. So it kind of looks like a theatre. And then they draw a massive crowd so people can actually walk to the bottom of the course. So you get a lot of people coming up to spectate. Awesome music. They have a big VIP tent, food, like that kind of thing. And just, it's like a big freestyle party. And so it's such good energy when you're there as a competitor in the start gate. And there's like massive crowd down the bottom, and the course is lit up, and it's a gnarly course as well. It's steep. The moguls are huge. It's called Champion. It was where the 2002 Olympic Games were, Salt Lake City Olympic Games. So a bit of a beast of a course, but good fun to ski.
Rumour has it that's what started Brit's passion too, actually. Yeah, a little bit of my research, 2002 Games.
Look out.
Well, it was leading me down the path, actually, because when you brought up Utah, I was like, I know what I'm going to talk about now. What made you start? What gave you the spark?
So so as I was saying earlier, I grew up in Falls Creek, Victoria, so very, very lucky to grow up in that environment where skiing was our school sport. And when I'd finished school, at the end of the day, my brother and I would jump on the mountain and ski until the lifts closed. So Mum and Dad ran an accommodation business on the mountain, which allowed us, because they worked on the mountain, that allowed us to grow up in that environment. And we were really lucky to be able to do that. But obviously being a snow-loving, ski-loving family, we were pretty keen to watch the 2002 Winter Olympic Games, and they were in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I watched that on telly as an 8-year-old, and I specifically remember watching Elisa Camplin win the gold medal in aerial skiing. So not my sport, but I just remember seeing this girl compete and jump and do these awesome flips and twists, and to see her win that gold medal and how happy she was and excited, and I was like, wow, an Aussie chick can do that. She can reach the absolute pinnacle of her sport in winter sport, and that was was really inspiring. Not long after that, I was competing at the inter-schools competitions at Mount Buller, and I heard that, actually saw her training there on one of the ski runs. It was next to where my inter-schools competition was for mogul skiing. It's my first ever year competing in mogul skiing in the school events, and she was training there on next to the run that I was on. So I actually waited at the top of the chairlift during one of her training sessions, because with my result sheet from the piece of paper from the event that I competed in, and I waited there until she came up, Lisa, and got her to sign my result sheet. And she actually, looking back on it now, it was the middle of her training session, and she took the time out to come over, chat with me, sign my result sheet, and I still have that piece of paper today. But so just seeing and meeting her was really inspiring to me, and I guess kind of made me feel like, I want to do that. I want to be the best in the world at something. I didn't really know it at that time what it would be, but after I guess starting to compete in mogul skiing events, I very quickly fell in love with the sport and the variety and the adrenaline and excitement of it. Elisa was definitely a huge inspiration to me in the early days.
What's a moment from the early days where you realised that this actually might be a chance of me being able to do something cool? Have you reflected on that, going, what was the moment that I thought, this is doable? Because I think we've all played high level sport to an extent, obviously not to the extent over here.
We're not wearing any green and gold uniforms, but
local battlers over here. Local battlers over here. We all have this moment as a kid where we want to do really well at sport, and we think, hey, I'd love to do this for a job, but what is there a moment that you can remember for you that you thought, you know what, I think this is actually possible, I can do something pretty cool with this?
To be honest, I think it was watching Elisa at the Salt Lake City Olympics. I think that was my sort of first look in at seeing an Aussie succeed in winter sports. And I think we're really lucky in Australia that Australia has had such great success in winter sports, which is really cool to see. We have a rich history of success both in World Cup and Olympic Games for freestyle skiing in particular. So I saw that and was like, okay, that's achievable. But I also feel like I was surrounded by, I think, my family were always very supportive, very encouraging, definitely encouraged me to dream big, particularly my dad, always very much the kind of person that encouraged me to follow my dreams. And I look back on that now, I'm so grateful, and so grateful for their support. I mean, I didn't actually travel, a lot of people when I was young, growing up in a mountain, they would do back-to-back winters, and we didn't do that. We had summer holidays, we'd go camping, and I remember when I first made the development team, my parents actually sold their caravan so that we used to go camping in, so I could go on that first trip.
So what you're saying is you had no choice to be good?
No, I just had support.
I was
my
naturally talented. Look at me go down some little bumps.
No, I just had support. My family were just supportive. I had an older brother. I was chasing him around the mountain. So I don't think there was a particular moment other than I never really, I didn't doubt it from a young age. My parents, I guess, instilled in me that, all you can do is work hard and try hard. Mm-hmm. And that, at the end of the day, that's all you can do is just train hard, try hard. And then, the rest, that's up to the judges.
Yeah.
Did you almost have a full circle moment? You had that moment with Alyssa, is that right? And then you're now obviously Olympic champion. Did you have that full circle moment with like someone coming up to you training and you're just like, yeah, this is cool?
Okay, well, like, couple of things there. I'm not Olympic champion.
Oh, like
World champion.
World
Dakara's Olympic champion.
Yeah.
But yes,
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to do that.
So first of all, yes, like seeing little kids watch Jack at the Olympics, and even when I go up to the mountain and I get kids that come up to me and when we sign their helmet and stuff, like that to me is like, it's so cool because like it's not the attention or anything like that. It's the fact that I have the opportunity to influence them and have like I look at how much just that small interaction with Elisa, how much that I guess changed or like sent me on that trajectory in my life path. And so now like knowing that, looking back, like I just see those little opportunities of like there's a kid that's excited to watch someone mogul skiing. Like I'm going to chat with them and take the time, like because the impact on that could be huge. And I don't know what it'll be, but why not? Like and just I appreciate anyone that loves sport. Like I have time for them.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we're kind of seeing, or why I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing in the AFLW, is that we're just starting to get like women role models in the AFL. So it's like how important it is for the AFLW to succeed so that we continue to have those female role models in the sport so that girls and young women continue to participate in Australian footy. So I think it's really cool that you're just like, yeah, I want to be that role model.
Absolutely.
My favourite quote involving that, sorry to interrupt. Yeah. You can't be what you can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Put that shit on a t-shirt.
I think that goes in line with like I'm quite a visual learner as well, so that kind of ties in with that. But and it's not just within your sport as well. I think that's something that I learned throughout my careers. I always tried to look at people that did whatever it was that they did really well and figure out, okay, what do you do to be good at what you do, basically, and learning from lots of different people, like, oh, that person's excellent at that particular thing, so I'll draw a little bit of inspiration from them, or just, learning from a bunch of different people in different areas of my life. So, yes, Elisa was my role model or inspiration in the beginning, but then I started to realize, like, actually, I can learn from so many different people, whether it be other athletes or teammates, competitors, people in different sport, like that kind of thing. I think it doesn't just have to be within your sport.
Who would be your top 3 that you've sort of drawn little nuggets from along the way?
She loves the word nugget. It's so funny.
Nugget. It's a good word, isn't it?
She picks it, like rides herself up for it and goes, nuggets. And
I love nuggets. That's what I got nicknamed for a little while.
You should do a podcast and see how many times in the podcast
I can say nugget.
Say nugget.
It's a good word to say as well.
It just gets me every time.
Nugget.
Can't really draw it out. Well, okay, so tough to choose. I feel like it's always changing. I've had some really good coaches in my career, like really interesting people that I've learnt so much from. So I'm going to, maybe I can group them together and say coaches.
Yeah. I'll allow.
Teammates as well.
Now you're fence sitting.
I can't group teammates again.
Teammates. Yeah, this is a tough one. So obviously Elisa in the beginning was very inspirational to me. Then I'd probably say, so my coach, I had 2 coaches for the majority of my career, Steve Desevich and Jerry Grossi, and they were the kind of coaches that would show up every single day they would match my passion and determination towards a goal. So if that was something that was really good for me in terms of working towards my goal, we were all on board. We knew what we were trying to achieve, and we were doing absolutely everything we could every day towards achieving that goal. But then towards the end of my career, I started working with a different coach named Kate Blamey, and I think at that point in time, I was ready for something new, something fresh, and Kate taught me so much about not just the technical aspects of my sport, but just kind of life in general. And I learnt, she was very much the kind of person that was like, I'm looking after the person first and the athlete second. So that was really important for me, and I think something that's helped me in my transition out of sport.
Yeah.
And I'd also say I'd group Alison Miles in that category as well, as someone that's very much like, let's look after the person, because a healthy, happy person is going to produce the best possible outcome on the daily performance or training environment. So Ali would be in there. I've worked with a bunch of different psychologists, mental skills, performance coaches that have all added value in my career. So yeah, this is obviously a lot more than 3, but just heaps of...
Arbitrary number. Top 3, top 5, top 7, who cares?
Yeah. Who are your favourite people in the world?
Family members. My brother, he's been super supportive from day one. Always kind of come back to him and rely on him. My housemate, amazing athlete, Hannah McDougall. She came into my life later in my career, but is someone that I've learnt a lot from as well. So, yeah, just so many people. And I think that's the thing, is like, it's okay to ask for help and learn from people around you. Like, that's, I think that's really probably that's just been a common theme throughout my career, is just always trying to learn from different people of what they do well, how they do those things well.
Yeah. I think being a keen learner is such a strong suit of yours, or like trait of yours. And that's probably something that set you up really well for the elite environment, because it is ever changing. And so you're constantly having that open mind and like keen to learn off whatever coach is coming into your life in that time and notice their strengths and draw on that.
Yeah.
Or learn off teammates, or like, I just think that's a really cool quality that you've got.
Thank you. I think that's just like, I guess I'm curious, and I'm also very happy to admit when I don't know something. Yeah. And ask for help and advice from someone that does know it, I think that's part of I didn't grow up in team sport, but we definitely operated as a team in the mogul skiing team. So there's that. And then I would also say something that I probably learned, and I'm still trying to learn, is yes, it's okay to learn from other people, but also know that they might be good at one thing in particular, but that doesn't mean you have to do everything like them, or like pick and choose, and also realize that you are your own person, right? Yeah. And that you have strengths and weaknesses as well. So back yourself.
I think we were talking about it over lunch, that we would all respond so much better to a leader that's able to acknowledge when they don't know something than someone that carries on thinking that they do, or want to come across as they do. And so, just having that ability to say, hey, I actually don't know what I'm doing here. But I want to learn.
Absolutely.
Teach me how, or I'm going to go and do some research, or talk to some people that might know the answers. I think that's awesome to see in other people.
So that then you can come back the next day and say, look what I learned. And
and then it's like yours.
It's yours, right? Yep.
Yeah.
That's,
Love it. I was just enjoying watching you guys talk.
I was just like, oh my gosh.
You're here too.
No, I love this. This is so good. I love just sitting and watching people talk and interact.
Yeah.
We are going to slightly veer.
Okay.
And you get to talk less about skiing life and more about Brit life.
Right.
How'd you find yoga?
Well, yoga. I was thinking about this the other day, because we ended up being in a yoga class together, which is really cool.
We ran each other on the street first.
At 5:45 in the morning.
You know how I knew it was you, actually? Is I recognised a jacket, and a long Lulu jacket, and I was like, maybe they're going, and I don't really know where I'm going, so maybe I'll try and connect with them. I was like, oh, hey, it's Brit.
It's a Lululemon jacket. Surely they're going to somewhere yoga related. Yes. I think I had the same thing with you. I was like, Lulu, puffy.
I was in a bright purple jumper, so.
Bright purple jumper. That makes sense.
I was.
You were standing out.
Yeah,
I'm a Lulu ambassador.
Well, I think
everyone in the room had some connection.
Yeah, right. No, then I was just like, I've seen this face before. Oh, from the Virtus podcast.
Okay.
So yoga. That I was thinking about the other day, because I haven't been in yoga classes too much lately. But I've been practicing yoga every day for probably the last 5 years or so. But I did my introduction to yoga was probably 2012. And I did do a class with a group that were called, at the time they were called Chicks with Sticks. So it was just a skiing program for any and every woman to be able to ski up in the mountains in Australia. Just bunch of girls that got together and skied, which was really cool. And I did some kind of like guest coaching for them, and they ran a yoga class in the afternoon. So shout out to Jane Vasey, who was a teacher in my first ever yoga class, and Zoe Jabor. And I remember being like, this feels really good. I love like moving my body. And she was a great teacher, and that she came around and kind of modified for everyone in the class to suit the practice towards them and where they were at. So like, yeah, this is really cool. And then started to sort of dabble with classes at various places, different studios around the world at wherever I was competing or training. And then in 2015, I moved to Melbourne, and not far from where I was living was a yoga studio called, at the time it was KX Yoga. It's now called He Yoga, but I remember going there, and first class I ever did at that studio was taught by Nicky Grimsdale, and he is, for anyone who's sort of in the yoga community in Melbourne, you know, he's one of the boss teachers. He's so good and just has the most creative, amazing sequences. So I was thrown right into some great classes there with Nicky, and not long after that, the studio started being managed by Sarah, who ended up buying out the studio, rebranding it to what it is today, which is He Yoga. And I kept going back and practicing there because there's a bunch of great teachers. I loved the community, and I just loved the way that my body felt when I did yoga. It was kind of, I saw it as kind of like, I guess, a bit of a supplement to my training, but it was also a place that I could go where out of everything that I did as an athlete in a judge sport where you're always performing and training hard, it was somewhere I could go where I wasn't performing. I was just being and just
doing.
Just doing and enjoying. It's a beautiful studio, like up on this first floor with these big arch windows where the light comes in. It's just a nice place to be. And being an athlete that's on the road a lot of the year, it was some place that I could just come back to that felt like home. And I always remember, like, I've lived in various places in Melbourne, but this yoga studio has always remained constant. And so I always said to people, like, I don't feel like I'm back home in between training camps until I've been back to the studio. Like, this is home for me. And ended up doing a bunch of yoga there. And I slowly started to learn that yoga was more than just the physical practice of the asana. And there were all these like pranayama techniques and breathwork techniques that I learned, but I learned like meditation techniques and how to be in the present moment. And it was more than just the shapes. It was the transition between the shapes and how that felt. And it became like a moving meditation, and it sort of opened this window to so much more than what I thought it was initially. So I thought, one day I'd love to do my yoga teacher training, but I was always training for mogul skiing and I was always away. But after the 2018 games, I had a bit of an injury. I broke my elbow and had to have a little bit of time off training. So I was actually based in Melbourne for a significant chunk of time. And I thought, right, it lined up well with when that studio were running a teacher training. So I signed up and did my yoga teacher training while I was doing my rehab. And that for me was a really profound experience. It was with that teacher that I was talking about, Nicky Grimsdale, and then the studio owner, Sarah Metzger, and they were amazing teachers to run me through that course. I met a bunch of great yogis as well through that experience, where we did every weekend for I think roughly 8 to 12 weeks, and then a week intensive over in Bali at the end to get my qualification. So that was the yoga teaching side of things. Yep. But then after that, I think it was 2016. So I did my teacher training 2018. 2019, got back into competing again and started to have some pretty bad issues with my back, my lower back. And to the point where I was having to do really long warm-ups before skiing just to get my back moving and to feel comfortable. It was sore every morning. Really had to reduce the volume that I was doing on snow. And I kind of thought, this is just because I'm getting older. And then I was introduced to, I call him now my yoga guru. So he's a teacher in Sandringham named Duncan Ewing at the Yoga Arts Academy, and started practicing with him, whereas his yoga teaching style or asana style is very different. It's more one-on-one, quite traditional approach. It's one-on-one teaching, so he's always adjusting you, modifying, hands-on adjustments. And I started going to him from the recommendation of a few other skiers who'd been practicing with him, my teammate Brodie Summers, Lydia Lassala, and he'd helped them work through some injuries. So started practicing with Duncan, and my body just changed so much after working with him, and my back issues dissolved. I was able to get much more hip range than I ever had before in my career, which is actually really important in mogul skiing, to have that hip range for absorption. But then that allowed me to, that took a lot of the pressure off my back, and I felt like I was moving so much more. So I think going to see Duncan kind of I don't know if it prolonged my career, but it made the last couple of years in my career a lot more comfortable, and I was able to do more volume on snow again, and travel days were a lot better, because before that I was having to travel a day earlier than the team to have a day on the other side to get my back good again before I'd go on snow and train. And then I went back once I started working with Duncan. I didn't have to do that anymore because my back was a lot better. So yeah, there was that side of things. And
what a part of his practice allowed you to kind of like, from a body point of view, like make some really big inroads that you noticed?
I think very, very much that hands-on approach. One-on-one yoga, he would tailor everything specifically to what I needed. I think there was a lot of deep hamstring work, and that sort of allowed me to get more twisting, like QLs opened up, kind of that sort of thing. And I think with him, he'd give his like crazy. He'd just look at me and go, "Oh, you injured your shoulder, like, didn't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how did you know that?" But he's just got great knowledge of the body and how it moves. He'll watch me practice and sort of see sticking points and things like that, and tailor my practice to that. So it's almost like an S&C coach of yoga, which is really cool. And he'd give me different postures to work on pre-skiing and say, you know, this is really good to do at this point in time. And I'd do that every morning before training religiously, like a 25-minute sort of thing every morning when I woke up. Before I did any sort of training or anything like that, I'd do sort of a 25-minute yoga practice, and I still do that today. So
awesome. Yeah. What would you like to do with yoga? Like, now that you've kind of out of sport, you're in yoga, like, what for you is yoga something you want? Obviously you're going to pursue it, but from like maybe like a deliverable or like get yourself in something, is there anything you want to do with yoga?
I've done a little bit of teaching here and there, but at the moment for me it's just part of life, really. Like the asana practice is something I do every morning, but it's also, for me, it's just like a way of living. And you know, when, like I said before, some of the mental skills, or I don't even know what you want to call them, but just perspectives or ways of looking at things that I've learnt through yoga philosophy is kind of, now I see them showing up in my daily life and the choices I make and things like that. So it's just, I guess, a part of who I am. And I don't think it has to be this like spiritual, it can be if you want it to be kind of thing, but it's just like, I think yogis are about, you know, be kind to others and to yourself, look after your body, and you don't have to overcomplicate it.
Amazing. Yeah. Do you have a question?
I just love it. I'm just like loving hearing it all. Yeah. You're an awesome.
Go do yoga together.
Yeah. I'm shocking at yoga. I'll be like twisted in a little.
But this is what I mean. It's not like, yoga is not about being good at it. Like, you just do it.
Yeah, I know. I just feel my hamstrings and it hurts.
Just be gentle.
Okay.
She's got to find her hamstrings first.
Yeah, they don't quite work.
We're working on it. We worked out how to use our hips now.
Yeah.
It was a big ordeal, but we're good now.
We're starting to move a bit better. But yeah, I did yoga for a little bit, kind of coming out of lockdown. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it was just that space of, you could completely shut off from everything else that was happening in your life, and just for 30 minutes just like nicely move your body, like not having to, I don't know, hit a certain heart rate or like feel like you.
I feel attacked.
Well,
point at me. Don't have to hit a heart rate. Just make me do.
I hate it. But it's like you can just sit there and move through the session, and it's just really grounding in that way. But yeah, I just don't. That heart rate stuff kills me. Go for a slow plod. Hit a heart rate of 155 to 160.
That was a pointed attack at me, and I knew it. You didn't know that, but I knew that was a bar. That was a bar being thrown across the chest.
Yeah, you keep showing up.
Yeah, I know.
There must be some part of you.
Yeah, but I've started to rebel.
No, but my favourite part is the the realization of, oh shit, yeah, he was right.
He was right.
Yeah, I came in this week. I think I did, what was it, a 10K run on Tuesday, and my average heart rate was 160 something or other, and like
The marathon moneymaker heart rate.
450 paces.
Marathon money.
Yeah, and I was like, why? How's like? It's worked.
It was my favorite moment for as long as I can remember. I was like, see.
I was like, why was that
told you.
easy? And you're like, because we did all of this stuff beforehand.
Yes.
Do the work and get the reward.
Yeah, but I do every
Same
time
thing with the hamstrings in yoga. You do the work and you get the reward.
I'll have functioning hamstrings. Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much.
Okay, cool.
Maybe not hips. They're too far.
Yeah, mine. What did you call them? Inverted.
Retroverted.
Yeah, but no.
Oh,
Introverted.
Introverted.
Yeah,
Introverted.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. What surprised me with working with Duncan yoga is like I kind of had gotten to the point where I kind of accepted like, oh, this is just the way my hips are on my back. It doesn't move like I thought. Oh yeah, I've always thought, okay, I've got a long femur, so getting that hip range in mogul skiing is just not going to happen, or it's too hard, whatever. But actually working with Duncan realised that like over time I was able to change that and get that hip range and modify it. So it was like people say like, oh, I can't touch my toes. I can't do this or that. It's like, no, you just got to be consistent.
This is one of my least favorite quotes is the first step is acceptance. Well, it's fucking not. The first step is, yes, okay, I understand.
Identifying.
I identify and understand, but I can change this.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have to be the black and white way that you think it is.
I thought, all right, my back's, I just can't do anything about it. Well, no, actually I could, and I was able to feel better than I had earlier in my career. So
Yeah. It's like I run like a mini fridge. Okay.
Not anymore.
Let's adjust that.
Have you heard this story, Brit?
no.
I made a mistake one day. I told Tess that she runs like a mini fridge. Because she did. She was like short, stocky, and across the sides. Like that's just what it looked like.
Like a nugget.
Like a nugget with legs.
And like it was like a passing comment like a few weeks after I saw her run because we were getting some hamstring stuff and we were trying to identify a few things. And when we were actually doing the session, as she was finishing off, I actually had to take a phone call and I was on the phone all the way back to the gym. And then it was like a week and a half later. I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you, actually. And I just drove by and just like, hey, yeah, run like a mini fridge. And she's like,
I was like,
a mini fridge?
What?
And as soon as I said, I was like, oh, no.
Did that discourage you or motivate you more?
It made me highly aware of my running technique.
And guess what now?
I don't know what I look like
We're
now.
efficient.
Am I now a taller fridge?
A little bit.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
It doesn't really matter what you look like as long as you
We are
running
efficient.
fast,
We
right?
are an efficient runner.
And that you're hitting those heart rates.
Yeah. It was actually, I was impressed with my run this week. I was like, God, it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. We called it a mini fridge for a little bit. Fisher and Paykel every now and then.
Yeah, that's only when I run with Ollie, though.
It's Fisher and Paykel.
Fisher and his Paykel, because he also kind of runs like a mini fridge.
Okay.
Short, stocky, across the sides. When you see it, you know it. If you're like walking around Albert Park in the next like month or so and you see someone run and you'll see, be like, oh, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. It'll just be me.
It's like one of my favorite things to do. And like, I don't really ever get up to the city, but like, obviously there's quite an active community around the city and it's a little bit more enclosed. You see more people being active. I love watching people move around and be active. It's like, oh, yep, you've got a sore hamstring. Your back hurts. And it's like one of my like people watching, but like as an S&C coach, it's like on steroids people watching. It's just identifying things.
I just see people and I'm like, oh, if only they did yoga.
Yeah.
Or when people say to me like they've got some sort of injury or something like that, I'm like, oh, you could have prevented that.
So you're like me when I'm like, oh, I've got sore hamstrings. You're like, if only she did yoga.
Exactly.
All right, Britt. We are going to talk a little bit about Britt's future life and what you're excited for. And then I've got some quick questions from the community.
Oh.
I have a question.
Go on then.
How has your definition of success changed from while you were an athlete to where you are now?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh, that is a really good one. And definitely continues to change. Definition of success changes on a daily basis. Right?
What is your definition of success?
To always be growing, continually growing and learning.
I love that.
I think for me, my definition of success is living by my values and always making choices based on what my core values are. I would say that's my definition of success. If you had asked me what my definition of success was 6 years ago, I would have said winning an Olympic gold medal. That was my definition of success. and that was my definition of success for a very long time. And when I didn't achieve that goal, it hurt like hell. But that probably started that process of me learning and growing and figuring out who I was as a person who didn't have that, and discovering that I am more than just that. But I can still, something that I actually don't have control over winning any sort of sporting accolade or any sort of external accolade, right? Because I can't control what other people do. I can't control the conditions of the course. I can't control how the judges interpret my skiing. All I can control is the choices that I make on a daily basis, given my, the context, the external environment, where I am at any particular point in time, and whether or not I'm making those choices in alignment with my values or not in alignment with my values. Yep. So I think that's my definition.
How long did it take you to come to terms with not winning a gold medal?
Oh, a long time. Yeah. I mean, it's still tough.
Yeah.
It still comes up every now and then it'll pop up in my mind of like, oh, what if, and that kind of thing. But actually, yeah, I think the night of that event, so I went into 2018 I went into that season as world number 1 and world champion. So people had big expectations on me, and probably none of those were as big as the expectations I had on myself. And that night when I didn't achieve that goal, my brother said to me, he was like, this is actually, I know it's really hard right now, but you will see in time, you will see that this is an opportunity for you for growth. And I now, look back on that and I understand what he meant by that. And it definitely took a long time to get to that point where I would have loved to have achieved that and ticked that box, that goal that I set for myself as an 8-year-old. But it doesn't define me, and there is so much, I am so much more than that, and there's so much more ahead of me, so that I can be excited about. So I think it was a tough lesson, but a very important lesson.
Yep. What are you excited for?
Oh, I am excited for so much.
A 9 to 5.
Oh,
so jealous.
Yes and no. I did have the opportunity to do a bunch of work in live sport broadcasts over the last 12 months, which has been really fun, really cool to see how different sports operate and, athletes in different sports and kind of what goes on behind the scenes of telling the story of sport. It was pretty cool. It was pretty eye-opening. But also starting to do a little bit of stuff in sport governance as well. Obviously, Australia hosting the Brisbane 2032 Olympics and Paralympic Games. Then obviously the Com Games, Victoria 2026. So there's some really exciting stuff happening in high performance sport in Australia in the next decade. So I really want to stay connected and involved in that space. I'm part of the AIS High Performance 2032 Plus strategy. So that's for all sport now leading up to 2032 and beyond, all high performance sport. So cool to be connected in that way. On the board of the Olympic Winning Institute of Australia, which is obviously I'm very closely connected to that organisation as an athlete, contracted athlete with them for over 10 years and staying involved with the team there. But still studying, Bachelor of Communications. Nearly done. One subject to go, so home stretch. And then, wanting to do a little bit of work in kind of management consulting, leadership, organisational change, that kind of thing. So,
if you were to briefly summarise why you're passionate or excited about each of those things, what does each of them bring that one maybe doesn't?
Ooh, yeah, that's a...
Sorry.
No, this is really cool because I did just... Have you read the book Ikigai? I didn't see it on the shelf, but maybe that's
I haven't read any of these.
It's kind of like this Japanese concept that you have like these different elements of your life that kind of cross over. Like you've got your passion, your vocation. So there's like what you love, what you can get paid for, what's your passion, and they all kind of cross over with each other. So I guess I'm in this space in my life right now where I'm kind of just figuring out what those things are and finding a balance between them, which I think is sort of that thing they say, like the one, you might find something that kind of ticks all of those boxes, but they're always changing. So you never really get there. You never really achieve. It's always about working towards it.
You never reach the goalpost. The goalpost just move.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And something that I've learnt since I've retired from sport is that life is not as black and white as sport is.
Grey does exist.
Yeah, it's grey, but so it's, I guess, having a little bit of trust in that and patience, and be like, okay, it's good to have a goal and to work towards it, but knowing that things can change along the way and being able to adapt and modify as need be. So what I'm passionate about at each of those things is, one, I want to work in live sport broadcast because that's exciting. I love the aspect of storytelling and finding out about the human behind the athlete and the story of, what actually got them to the start line or the start gate, and who are they outside of their sport. So particularly around Olympic and Commonwealth Games sports, so I'm passionate about that, and being on in sport governance kind of side of things is like, what are the how can we see Australia continues to succeed and grow on the world stage of sport, and learning about that kind of things. And then I guess in the sort of management consulting side of things is like continuing to challenge myself and grow and learn on a daily basis. Like that's something that I really want to do, and be exposed to a bunch of different industries, but also learn about leadership and that kind of thing, teamwork, and just keep on learning.
For everyone at home, I told you she's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see all of these skills that you've obviously developed as an athlete. Just really, you're like super aware of them, and you're like, this is a strength of mine, so I'm going to utilize this in moving into my next phase of life.
And it's also, retiring has, I think, exposed my weaknesses a lot as well.
Yeah.
And areas that,
What are they?
I've been so focused on, one thing for such a long time, of like now, trying to juggle a lot more things. And I guess for me, my sport always took priority, and it was kind of like easy to make decisions because it was always about like, okay, what's actually, what's going to make me a better mogul skier. Whereas now it's like, I'm trying to do so many different things and figure that out. So that's maybe one of the weaknesses that I'm working on. I think, I'm like maybe working a 9 to 5 next year. If like people have told me, okay, it's going to be more than 9 to 5, but just having, that kind of lifestyle will be very different to me. But I'm also excited. Like I think this, it's something new and it's a new challenge. So
yeah, it's that space for learning and growing.
Exactly.
Not being scared of weaknesses, but being excited to like learn about them and make it a strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Do you have any final questions before I go quick fire?
What's your favourite Lululemon tight?
Ooh, these ones.
Before we go quick fire. But I'm in. Let's go. That was my first question.
Oh, really?
I think these are the Wonders.
The Aligns. Oh,
I love the Aligns.
the Aligns
typical
are just
yogi.
so good.
Typical yogi.
They just do such a good job.
Yes.
The Aligns. I used to ski in these all the time.
I love that.
I literally, for the last 10 years of my career, under my ski pants was always a pair of my Lululemons.
So good.
Lululemon tights.
Love that.
So good.
Yeah. Oh, who's going to fall over first, Mitch or I, on the slopes?
Ooh, I really wish I was coming up to the mountains with you guys so I could see this.
I'm so excited and petrified at the same
for you
time.
guys. It'd be great.
Yeah, for everyone playing along at home, Tess and I are going to the snow next week, and I've been in the snow once in my life, and it wasn't even real snow. So I'm going to
I've got this in the bag then.
learn. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
you've got this covered. I'm going to try and learn and snowboard, but I will spend more time on my ass than I will standing up. So, but I'm excited to be shit.
Though.
I'm excited to be bad at it.
That's
I like getting better. I like the challenge.
when you are
Do hard
learning
shit.
anything new, that those initial stages are really fun because you progress so quickly.
Yeah, that's what keeps you coming.
Whereas like when you're, and Tess, you'll appreciate this, like with the numbers that you go through with the rowing team of like when you're at that level, you're making like
1% changes.
0.1% change over 6 months, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
But then you have
can't
a
even
moment
see it
like
on a
2 weeks
video.
ago, Tess, and then you're like, this shit is awesome. Tess had a very groundbreaking moment.
What happened?
We ran like a rapid heat block, and we ended up seeing like these huge performance gains.
That is so cool.
And it was just like, I even had Rodney come up to me, and we were having this big physiology brain nerd out session, and he was like looking at all the numbers, and he just sat there and he was just like, Tess, this is magic. Like,
that is so
how
cool.
have you, how?
It's a unicorn.
Yeah.
Unicorn.
She gets called the unicorn.
A unicorn.
Yeah, I'm the
Love that.
unicorn of the VIS.
How did that feel?
It was huge. I was just like, it's one of those moments where you just sit back and you're like, I did good. I did good. And
That's so cool.
yeah, it was
So done.
a bit affirming.
That you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things, and like for us, like we don't really know if our work pays off until it pays off. Like
Yeah.
realistically, like without being black and white, like we don't know if something works until it works or it doesn't work. So other than that, we're just like on the edge the whole time
Yeah.
in anything we do. We're literally with obviously having some guided information and some breadth of knowledge
Yeah.
behind it is we're basically throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks. If it sticks, like we just don't know.
But there
Well,
is
you're
learning
in
in that.
Yeah.
In the business of human movement,
Yeah.
right? There's
Yeah.
so many variables.
We're in the business of change, and change takes time, and
Yeah.
change can be
Even-
very, very fast. And
So many
change can be
variables.
very, very slow.
Yeah.
Even just so we ran that heat block with one group of athletes in 1 week, and we saw those huge responses. We ran the same heat block in another group of athletes the following week, did not see the same response.
Yeah.
So it's like we constantly throw out ideas, and
And now
if
you've
it
got to
works,
figure out
great.
what was it,
Yeah.
what was different between the two groups.
Yeah.
That, and it may or may not have been anything to do with your work in there. Like
Yeah.
maybe they were they out partying or
Yeah,
like,
what
you
were
don't
they
know,
doing?
Right?
It was it the training that they'd done for the previous 2 months before they got into
Were
the
they
chamber.
not fueling enough or recovering?
We know who that was.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned that. Mrs. doesn't eat enough over here.
Oh yeah, but that's don't let him know that.
No,
Don't let
Brit-
Ali know
Brit
that.
and I have already talked about this today.
Oh, are you going to get on my case as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
About Tess not filling herself properly.
I mean, you can only help yourself.
Well,
It's like the yoga thing all
hurts.
over again.
That hurts. That's a great way.
Yeah, this is Mama Bear coming down hard on Tess.
Mother hen over here.
I'll be walking past on the gym floor, and you'll be there exercising. You'll be like, "Have you had lunch yet?"
Exactly.
Can you
I
please?
just brought you in a sandwich.
Yeah, I always skip lunch when I'm at the
the worst excuse that Tess has is like, oh, I have food. I just didn't eat it. I forgot to.
I fully pack an exciting lunch, and then
like-
I just don't.
It's like you running a program for your athlete, but them not doing it.
Ooh, that hurts too. I like this. Keep going.
Cutting me deep.
This is so good.
But yes, it is exactly like that.
All right, quick fire. Ready? So these come
go.
from the community of people that I've chatted to over the last week.
Okay, who does the community of people consist of?
So Virtus members and clients, athletes, St Kilda AFLW athletes,
Oh, nice.
my friends, and my family.
Awesome.
You're going to have to think of a couple too, just
Oh, okay.
just like short ship, like nice questions. Ready?
Let's go.
All right. What is a Winter Olympic Village like?
Ooh, Winter Olympic Village. Aside from the obvious bloody freezing,
Yeah.
really cool. Each one's been different,
Yes.
which is awesome. Vancouver was in the city, so it was like a little mini city. Sochi, obviously up in the mountains. Usually have Maccas
Yeah.
in them. Not at the last games.
So they're not as glorious as the summer ones.
I think they're just smaller.
Smaller,
right?
yeah, smaller
Yeah.
scale.
But
Less
what's
athletes.
cool is you walking around and you just see all these athletes from different sports. And I remember at Vancouver, sorry, this isn't very rapid fire, but
I knew you were going to do this anyway, so I'm going to keep you on. Don't worry.
You got about 30.
So I had a photo with this Slovakian ice hockey player, and he was apparently the tallest person in the league at the time. And I'm there so he's the tallest Olympic athlete at the games. I'm there as the youngest Olympic athlete at the games, and got a photo together, and like just those novel things.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
Awesome. As an athlete, as a contracted athlete, what's the pay like?
Wait,
This came from
I
like
love
one of my
this question.
15-year-old athletes, so that was
15-year-old athletes.
Literally,
That's
yeah.
really cool. So sometimes when I have spoken with other athletes who are in professional sports, not elite sports,
Yes.
it's really funny because they're like, oh, talking about paid, and I'm like, wait, you guys are getting paid?
I love that.
We do it for the love.
Yep. Favorite winter apparel?
Apparel.
Yeah, like what can't you live without if you're going away to the snow?
Oh.
Like your one piece that you love and I've treasured.
Oh, this is a tough one, but probably, I mean, you cannot survive without a good pair of gloves. Yeah.
Gloves.
I was going to be like, throw you a beanie.
She was trying to help you out over there.
Nah, good pair of gloves. I've skied with XTM gloves my entire career. It kept me warm I had a block in northern Finland of training where for 10 days it didn't get below negative, it didn't get above, negative 30.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so good pair of gloves.
Favourite place to travel to?
For skiing?
For whatever you want it to be for, yep.
The peninsula?
Fence sitter.
No,
media train.
You dodged that one like a pro.
No, I didn't need to dodge it. Aside from the negative 30, Northern Finland's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's my next Euro trip is like
Is that where
Scandinavia.
Northern Lights are?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to see those.
That's top of my next travel list.
Favourite place to compete, Deer Valley, Utah. But we used to train in Zermatt, Switzerland, October every year on the glacier there, and that is just absolutely beautiful.
Least favourite training session?
Place. Least favourite training session? A thing called brassards, which, unless you're a mogul skier, you haven't heard of them, so it's something we use to train the absorption that's involved in mogul skiing. So you on a trampoline, you stand up the end of the trampoline, and you're basically in a squatted position doing really fast absorptions. We do like intervals, 30 seconds at a time, to simulate the feeling and...
Gross.
I hate rhythm squats. It sounds so much worse.
Honestly, that was...
It's so, like,
I punished my athletes and members with rhythm squats. It's basically like quarter squats bouncing up and down. Similar vibe.
Much.
And that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, this is cool.
Exactly.
You're going to put mine to 60 next week, aren't you?
No, we're going to do it on trampoline next week. That sounds cool.
That was one thing, like, I miss a lot about being a competitive mogul skier. I do not miss doing those training sessions.
I love that.
It's brutal.
You got one?
Yeah. Favourite book?
I can see it in your eyes.
Ooh, favourite book. There's a few here that I've read, but actually noticed a quote on the wall over there by Viktor Frankl, and his book, Man's Search for Meaning?
Yes.
Or
That
Man's
sounds...
That's
Search
up
for
here
Meaning.
somewhere. I've seen that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that's one of Lockie's favourite books too.
Yeah, that's a
These
great
are all
one.
Lockie's, so he's the book guy.
Right. Yeah, there's some good ones up there. Love it.
You got another?
I don't think so.
What's your favourite book?
Oh.
See, I told you this would turn around eventually. Here she is.
Okay. My favourite sort of learning book or non-fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would be Johan Hari's Lost Connections or Stolen Focus. Those two were incredible.
Right.
I love those.
Stolen Focus is on my bedside table at the moment, but I haven't opened yet.
It's really good. For someone that loves learning and scientific rationale behind things,
Yeah.
that's why I love his books, because he puts that twist of the science but in everyday life and makes it really simplistic. So that's why I love those two.
Yep.
Non-fiction, fiction. I loved Boy Swallows Universe.
Right.
That blew my mind.
Yep.
I loved that book. So they're my favourites.
Good picks.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, two left.
Yep.
Injury list.
Ooh, injury list. Okay. We'll go from the bottom up.
Deal. I like that.
Okay.
This little piggy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little piggy got
Pretty much
broken.
like that.
This little piggy.
Three sprained ankles. Been pretty lucky on the knee front, just niggles and that kind of thing. But the thing I get asked the most on a chairlift is, how are your knees? Because people watch mogul skiing and they're like, oh, it's your knees. But it's actually your back. So I had, like disc protrusion type stuff, transverse process fractures, like L4-ish area. A lot of like lower back issues there. But then my worst in both elbows, if we're going up. Yeah, both elbows at different times, luckily. And then my worst crash resulted in broken clavicle and 6 broken ribs at the same time. Knocked myself out.
Gross. Read about that one.
Jeez. That's brutal.
Yeah, that was not fun.
I've only broken my foot. And then I chipped my elbow, but that was my sister's fault.
You chipped your elbow.
Yeah.
Don't you just generally chip teeth?
No, it was like a little, it hadn't quite come off.
Okay, yeah.
It was a little, yeah. It was,
bones then. That's
yeah, I've done pretty well. Yeah. But that was my sister's fault because I was 4 years old and she told me, or she double dog donut dared me to hang off the fireman's pole with one arm. And
I've heard this story.
Wait, what is a double dog donut dare?
You explain it.
It's just like I dare you to do this.
it's like
but
a dare you
if you
to,
do
but for
it,
kids.
a kid, like if a kid says that, you're doing it.
It's like one of those unwritten things.
You can't not do it.
Yeah.
Right,
And
okay.
so little 4-year-old Tess grabbed onto the fireman's pole with one hand and fell like a bag of potatoes and chipped her elbow. May was in so much shit.
Trouble.
Yeah. But yeah, I now have that story over her.
It's a good story.
All
Yeah.
right. Last question, then we're going to wrap up. Tess can go to dinner. 3 people. Who would you recommend for the Virtus podcast
Ooh.
to talk to? Who is
Okay.
in your little world? I don't have to know them.
3.
We don't have to know them. Who would you love to hear more about, or who do you think has a really cool story to tell that isn't necessarily up front with telling it unless they're asked?
I think everyone has a cool story to tell.
I agree, yes.
Yeah, it's
But
just
give
about
myself-
asking the right questions.
Fence sitter again. Here it is.
No, it's about asking the right questions. Okay. My 94-year-old grandfather.
Oh, you know what I'm really excited for? Segue, sorry. Off
Okay.
track. Tess's mum's coming on the podcast.
Yes.
Not confirmed yet, but it's going to happen,
Okay,
and I
obviously
am
Tess doesn't
so
know.
excited
That
for
is
that.
awesome.
Terrified.
On
We can
that
ask
kind
her
of
about the double dog
Donut dare. Yeah.
Yep. So my grandfather is 94. Yes.
Not confirmed yet, but it's been floated enough now that I'm like speaking
That's
it
going
into
to be
existence.
more
I am
chaos.
so
Not
excited.
confirmed. You
Not
said
confirmed.
confirmed just before.
No, not confirmed. Not confirmed. Not
okay,
confirmed.
okay.
Not confirmed. But it's happening.
Okay.
Anyway, yes. Your 95-year-old grandma, yes. As well. Grandfather, sorry.
Was treasurer of Fitzroy Football Club.
Cool.
Wears his Brisbane Lions dressing gown every single day.
Love that.
And it's his he wears it when
Old
they
people are
play.
so cute.
when Brisbane play, he wears the dressing gown, and he says to all the grandchildren, "If you don't support Brisbane, then you're not included in his will."
That's fair.
That's
fair.
But I asked
Show
him
up.
because it's his lucky dressing gown. I asked him. I said, "Granddad, will you wear it when I compete in the Olympic Games?" And, of course. And so yeah, he wore it.
I love that.
When I was competing, which was really cool. Next person. Who do I want to hear from? Everyone. My old coach, former coach, Kate Blamey. Really interesting person, smart person, has a great way of. She's a great leader, has good leadership skills. So it'd be cool to hear from her. And then, have you been in? You have been interviewed. I've listened to that.
Yeah, a while ago. I can't actually remember the last time I did one, like being interviewed, to be fair. I feel like I did one.
You need an
not that-
update.
I feel like I've had a lot of shit going.
Ooh, you know what would be really cool? Rod and Tess together.
I've never met Rod. I feel like I'd
You
really,
would
yeah,
love-
I feel like I'd really like
Yeah.
That'd be
Rod,
cool.
but I've heard lots of things and lots of very good things, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would be seriously very cool.
I'm in. You're in charge. Set it up. I set this one up, so you're in charge.
Okay.
You know, Tess and Zach for episode number 5.
Oh, I know
It's the
exactly.
Tess Rowley show, right?
I know exactly what he's going to say as well. And you'll leave it to the very last minute and we'll both laugh very, very hard and you'll be like, what the hell's going
Okay.
on?
I love those moments, though.
Yeah.
Britt, thank you very much for making the trek down and coming to hang out for the best part of like 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's been fun. That went quick.
Yeah.
I really think you should do a podcast by yourself, like your own podcast with people, because I reckon it'll
You're
be
incredible.
amazing.
What do we talk about?
No,
if you
this is
watch
for
back
you.
this
Yeah.
video, I'm sitting here like this the
Same.
whole time.
When you two talk, I'm just like infatuated. and
I
everything,
just-
so.
You've got so many awesome qualities, so many cool stories, but yeah, just you being an awesome human is just so, I just love it.
Well, I think it's cool what you guys are doing with the podcast, and I'm just always happy to talk about sport, and
Yeah, you do cool shit.
like
You've done cool shit. You are cool.
Yeah.
so are you guys. That's
Yeah.
why that's why I wanted to hang out with you guys.
No, thank you for coming. It's been awesome. I
Good
loved
fun.
it.
Thanks for having
I
me.
got a little treat for you on the way out.
Have a good day.
Nice.